Well, welcome back. Well, Israel allowing thousands of Palestinians to return home to northern Gaza today after Hamas agreed to release 3 more Israeli hostages this Thursday and another 3 this Saturday. But Israel is now accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement, saying 1 female hostage slated for release later this week was supposed to come home this past Saturday. 4 women were released by Hamas over the weekend in exchange for nearly 200 Palestinian prisoners. The White House says the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon has been extended until February 18th. Joining me now is former IDF paratrooper and Heritage Foundation senior policy analyst Daniel Flesch. Daniel, thanks very much for being here. How would you assess this ceasefire and release of hostages?
Well, good morning, Maria. The ceasefire is, as you said, it's now ongoing with the final hostage that's a civilian going to be released on Thursday, along with another soldier and 1 unnamed hostage. But it's no surprise that Hamas broke the ceasefire thus far. Actually, the civilian that's going to be released on Thursday was held by a different terrorist organization, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who tried to class the Israeli as a soldier and not as a civilian. But it's no surprise, like I said, that Hamas broke the ceasefire. They did so in November of 2023 during the previous and only hostage for temporary ceasefire negotiation, and they likely will do it again because at the end of the day, Hamas views Israelis as valuable assets to hold to exchange for their terrorists and prisoners that are held in Israeli jails. So while we definitely hope and pray that all the Israeli hostages will be released, certainly don't expect that phases 2 and 3 will come to fruition. This entire thing will come to an end.
Well, I mean, look, we're all praying for the hostages to get home and that they are safe. But is this deal a little lopsided? You've got 3 Israelis here, another 3 on Saturday. Meanwhile, there's 200 Palestinians being released.
Certainly, it's lopsided, and if you go back to 2011, when actually I was serving in the IDF at the time, you had 1,027 Palestinian terrorists exchanged for 1 Israeli soldier, Gilad Shalit. One of those 1,027 terrorists was Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7th invasion and massacre. So the idea that Israel's going to get a 1-to-1 trade was unlikely to ever happen, not to mention the terms of this current agreement were first established in May of last year, but it took, obviously, President Trump's election and Israel battlefield victories of the last 6 months to see this deal come to fruition. But at the end of the day, Israel does value and will value the return of its people safely, to the extent possible, even if they're alive or they're dead, back to Israeli territory.
President Trump said that he wanted to, quote, clean out the Gaza Strip after it was destroyed during the Israeli war, the Hamas war. He's urging Jordan and Egypt to take in refugees, either temporarily or for the long term. Both countries have rejected the idea. Daniel, your reaction?
Well, Maria, it's an interesting thing about this war, and indeed all wars with Israel, is that unlike Ukrainians who fled Ukraine in 2022, millions of them after Russia continued its invasion, you don't have Gazans leaving Gaza. Palestinians are not allowed to leave. They can't become refugees. And why is that? It's largely because the Arab world knows 2 things. One is, if they leave, then they're likely to cause instability and even death and destruction in every country that they then visit. That's what history tells us. The king of Jordan's, his own grandfather, was assassinated by a Palestinian. And secondly, the Palestinian people want to stay in Gaza, at least the world wants to keep them there, because it keeps the 1948 war alive. If you don't have Palestinians in Gaza, they can't claim the right to return anymore, nor should they. But that's really the main purpose. And so it's great of President Trump to think outside the box, to try to break this regional taboo. And particularly for Gazans who want to leave, why should they not be allowed to relocate, particularly if, as they are intending, Hamas will remain in power, or at least have a presence in the Gaza Strip when this war is over?
Yeah, that makes sense. Liz Peek, jump in.
Well, yeah, it is offensive to me that Israel comes under relentless criticism for not opening their border, not having a free exchange, people from the Gaza Strip coming into Israel. What about Egypt? Why doesn't anyone ever confront Egypt on this issue? Jordan, I understand their position. They have 3 million Palestinians. They took them in before in a country of 10 million. That's a huge, basically a subsidy of this entire region. But what's up with Egypt? Why don't we press them to do this?
Well, to add another point about Jordan, most of Jordan is Palestinian. I mean,
Yeah.
first off, if you want to go back to the mandate period in the interwar years from World War I to World War II, the Palestinian mandate included present-day Jordan and Israel, and most of that was given to the Hashemite kingdom now in Jordan. But as it pertains to Egypt, Hamas is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which, if you recall, during the Arab Spring in the early 2010s, Mohammed Morsi became president after the overthrow of Hosni Mubarak. That was a Muslim Brotherhood government. And so the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas both present a challenge to Sisi's rule in Cairo, in Egypt. And so having Palestinians in there would, again, threaten to would be a destabilizing force. And not to mention, they want to keep Palestinians in Gaza to keep the war against Israel alive. That's really the main reason. But of course, Arab countries around the region who proclaim support for the Palestinian cause should be willing and able to accept the Palestinian people when they are refugees.
Yeah, especially since it appears that it's Hamas breaking the rules on the ceasefire.
Well, no, certainly. They are breaking the rules. And again, we talk a lot about Hamas, as we should, but there are other terrorist organizations inside Gaza, including, as I mentioned earlier, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Islamic Republic of Iran. So even when this war ends, at the talk about the day after, when the day after eventually comes, you want to see a Gaza that is peaceful, that is not a threat no longer to Israel. And if people watch the video now of Gazans going north towards the northern part of the Gaza Strip along the coastal road, take a view of the coast there. I asked my friends, what's the difference between the coast in Tel Aviv and the coast off Gaza? And the only answer is 20 miles, not even at times 15 miles. That's the only difference. It could be a wonderful place if the Palestinian people put down their war against Israel.
Yeah, great point, Daniel. Thank you. Daniel Flesch joining us. Stay with us. Quick break, and we'll be back. You're watching Mornings with Maria, live on Fox Business. Stay with us.